Here, you will be learning about key counters to 7 of the top meta heroes. These heroes will allow you to nullify the core strengths of top meta heroes like Beastmaster, so you can rise in MMR. I'd like to let you guys know that we have hundreds of videos created by top pro players on GameLeap.com, so make sure to check out the end of the video for a special offer. Now let's get straight into each meta hero. The first hero is Troll Warlord. The main idea to countering Troll is the ability to kite him in and out of ult, and having magical damage. The following 3 heroes all have one or both of these capabilities. First is Draw Ranger. Frost arrows and itemization such as Hurricane Pike, Blink, and Shadow Blade all make it very hard for Troll to close the gap or stay on top of anyone. If Troll has to buy an early Blink dagger to solve these issues, he can often lack damage and limit his farming potential. Next is Pugna. Decrepify is a god tier spell against Troll. It easily kites him in his ult, but more importantly, exposes his greatest weakness, magical damage. If you compare Pugna with other pushing heroes, Troll will have to defend early with an average of 1200 HP and no BKB. And finally is Razor. Razor has a ton of kiting potential. His Q now slows, and his E gives him movement speed, making it even harder for Troll to get on top of him. To top it all off, Razor renders Troll useless by draining his damage that is attack speed focused, not burst based. Next up is Tusk. Tag Team is one of the best laning stage abilities. There are limited heroes that can deal with this spell in lane. In addition, Tusk provides a very high tempo game that most supports can't keep up with. My first counter is Elder Titan. Elder Titan is easily my favorite Tusk counter. It covers a lot of his strengths. Astral Spirit allows you to match the damage output of Tusk in lane. In addition, Stomp and Splitter are amazing counters to snowball gangs and help teammates disengage from shards. Next is Coddle. Coddle has to be careful against Tusk early, so if you're not comfortable with positioning, I would avoid this matchup. However, a well-positioned Coddle is similar to ET in many ways. Illuminate is a great harass spell in lane that can be cast from range, and is bound to hit heroes grouping up for Tag Team. Blinding Light burns the entire duration of Tag Team, and when maxed out, matches the low cooldown of Tag Team. Finally, similar to ET, Coddle has amazing counter gank to snowball ganks, with his ultimate Will-O-Wisp. Finally is Brewmaster. Drunken Brawler is the same duration of Tag Team, and therefore, Brew is one of the only heroes that can consistently fight back during the duration of Tag Team and trade 1v1 against Tusk, because you can also purchase Stout Shield. Next is Undying. Undying is super hard to compete against in lane, so I'm going to propose a few ways to beat him in that regard. First up is Dazzle. Poison Touch absolutely destroys Undying. It destroys a lot of heroes, but it also just prevents Undying from ever being able to man up. If you constantly keep the tick on him, his high HP pool often seems like nothing. In addition, because he lowers your HP pool, your heal is even more effective than previous. If he drops you down to 280 HP, with only 380 max HP, and then the decay wears off, the heal will essentially heal you to full if you do it before the decay resets. This makes this matchup just overall extremely effective in lane. Next up is Nature's Prophet. Nature's Prophet has a few great options against Undying in lane. First is that your treants do an obscene amount of damage, so any melee hero struggles to get in on you. This includes Undying, and makes Nature's great against him in lane. The other option you have is the ability to use treants to drag the wave. If you feel like you're not comfortable with your treant micro, then you can simply just have them drag the creep wave back to you under your tower, and completely dodge Undying in lane. And finally, I'm going to propose an idea more than a hero, but this applies for any 4 hero. If you're playing 4 or against Undying in lane, rather than trying to contest him directly in lane, drag his creep wave and bring it under your tower. This negates a large portion of Undying's advantages in lane. Next is Medusa. Medusa, often, if brought to the late game, will easily win the game alone. So many heroes that can force her to fight early and pressure her early are very effective. The first counter is Huskar. If you can counterpick Medusa mid, you pick Huskar. Huskar destroys Medusa in lane and sets the perfect tempo to beat a Medusa. You can take Roche around the 15-minute mark and end the game shortly after. Next is Clinks. Clinks can't necessarily crush Medusa in lane, but going Diffusal absolutely shreds her mana pool because your mini skeletons get the mana burn. Other benefits include invading all of her right clicks due to strafe, and easily pressuring her side lane towers, reducing the total amount of space she can farm. Next is Jug. Healing Word provides a great tool to help your squishy support stay alive, and lets your cores man up against the terror that Medusa can often be. In addition, Spin is a great tool to disengage from Stone Gaze, and Omni Slash gives it a reliable way to kill her at all stages of the game, especially with the Diffusal Blade. Next up is OD. OD is one of the scariest pub heroes right now, so I'm going to propose a few heroes that can counter many of his strengths. First off is Nature's Prophet. To put it simply, your Treants absolutely crush him in lane, even in the mid lane. If you get even mediocre with Treant Micro, you can get 50% or more of the denies in the lane. This sets OD back very greatly, as he doesn't farm as fast as many other heroes. With his new changes, he can often catch up, but because of this tempo you can set in the game with your ultimate, you can ruin his side lanes before he ever comes online. Next up is the most common OD counter, which is Pugna. If you don't know much about this matchup, Pugna is great in lane because you have pretty high attack range and good movement speed to disengage when he's trying to astral you, but in addition it's great throughout the game. Netherward absolutely destroys OD because he uses so much mana to cast his spells. Decrepify is amazing because OD primarily relies on right clicks to pump out damage, and you have many damage sources that can force him low. And your Nether Blast is great against him because when he's farming up his items, you can pressure down all of his side lane towers. And finally is Clinks. I know I've mentioned Clinks for a few ranged heroes in the mid lane, and that's because I think this hero has a lot of potential. This potential also applies for OD. In lane, Clinks has very high attack range, so it's very hard for OD to astral him, and Searing Arrows just do a ton of damage. Damage that OD really can't deal with because he doesn't have great HP regen. Also throughout the game, OD struggles against Clinks because Strafe completely dodges all of OD's projectiles, and OD has no way of killing any of the Burning Army units. So with a little bit of control, OD can often get stuck within the ultimate and get completely shredded by the skeletons. The next hero is Juggernaut. Juggernaut can often have a very scary laning stage when paired with heroes like Lich. There are a few heroes that can still win the laning stage and pressure him very nicely in the mid game that I'm going to be talking about. First is Slardar. Slardar has a few very nice tools that are great against Juggernaut. First is his ability to increase his movement speed, allowing him to disengage from spin in the laning stage. This makes it very hard for Jug to pressure Slardar at all. On the other hand, with Greater Bash, Slardar can do a number on Jug in lane. Also throughout the game, Slardar prevents Jug from being able to safely spin TP out because Greater Bash pierces spell immunity. Next up is Sven. Sven with Bracers has such a high HP pool that Jug's spin is negligible against him. In addition, you can use your cleave to harass him in lane, or your stun. In addition, your HP shield that you can give to your teammates is amazing against Jug's new Omni Slash. It soaks up a ton of damage and can often make Jug feel completely useless. Finally is PA. PA is a super popular hero as well right now, and it's just amazing against Jug. Jug can never man up against PA for a few reasons. Of course, there's the miss chance, but more importantly, if you cast Blur when being Omni Slash, it cancels it. Any hero that has this capability is pretty good against Jug, but PA can just crit Jug down in one hit as well, so the matchup's really nice. Next up is Huskar. Huskar doesn't have many direct counters, but often struggles against specific abilities. My first counter is Clinks. To put it simply, Clinks crushes Huskar in lane. Searing Arrows, Strafe, and a 250 attack range advantage makes Clinks a perfect lane counter and game counter for Huskar. Clinks can fight early to match Huskar's ridiculous early game timings, and Burning Army makes it near impossible for Huskar to armlet toggle versus a Clinks gank. Next is Viper. Viper's magical damage used to be a non-factor against Huskar. That is no longer the case. It can often cause Huskar to have no toggle timing. Nether Toxin completely nullifies Huskar's passive, which is the spell that makes Huskar unkillable most games. This may sound crazy, but going Blade Mail on Viper makes it impossible for Huskar to ever man up when it is off cooldown. Next up is Necro. Similar to Viper, Necro's ult used to be mediocre against Huskar. Now it chops down Huskar in one fell swoop. Ghost Shroud also gives Necro some immunity to Huskar for a short period of time. However, it is often long enough to get off a deadly scythe. And for the last hero, we're going to talk about Beastmaster. Beastmaster is easily one of the scariest offlaners currently. His units make him extremely strong in lane, and a menace to every hero throughout the mid and late game. First off, I'm going to make a category of supports that I think are underrated against him in lane, and those are the ones that can deal with his boars. Specifically, Chen, Enchantress, and CM. Each of these heroes all have the ability to either take over a boar or kill them instantly. Because of this, you're great counters against Beastmaster. In addition, you can take any unit you want throughout the game if you are Chen or Enchantress, and CM can also one-shot them throughout the entire game with Frostbite. Next up are cores. First, I'm going to talk about Timber. Timbersaw is great against Beastmaster for many of the reasons why he's great against other melee heroes. Beastmaster's units do no damage against Timbersaw, simply because of reactive armor. Timber has way too high of HP regen and armor for Beastmaster to deal with him at all, and Timber's Whirling Death chops down the strength and HP pool of Beastmaster very quickly, making it very hard for Beastmaster to lane. One of Beastmaster's main strengths is his ability to pressure towers with his unit. Timber runs through units and has no threat when doing it, so this makes him an amazing counter. And finally is Troll. Troll is similar to Timber in a few ways because he doesn't have to worry about the units too much. With the mischance, Troll can easily deal with units in lane because you can man up very easily with your whirling axes, and you can pressure the Beastmaster very heavily in lane simply because your hero mans up very well with Fervor, his slow, and his mischance. GameLeap.com is the most advanced library of pro player guides available that you can use to start dominating your games. With hundreds of in-depth videos and more added daily, GameLeap is the quickest way to improve a lot faster than you would on your own. Click on the link to check out the website and get your membership at 25% off. See you there.